Power International is moving fast to fast. Every month, a new country, a new partnership, a new doorway they seem to unlock without hesitation. And right in the middle of this rise stands one name people can't stop whispering about: Fightland. Two powerful forces growing at the same time, expanding in the same direction, fueled by the same sudden momentum. Is this just business timing, or is something bigger happening behind the curtain? Power International is not just another company trying to grow. It is an organization that has stepped into the global stage like a force of nature. In just a few years, it has reached countries that many companies take decades to enter. Their speed raises questions, their silence creates curiosity, and their confidence makes people wonder how far they plan to go. When a business grows this fast, people usually expect a loud announcement, a huge statement, or a public roadmap. But Power International moves differently. They grow quietly. They grow quickly. They grow with purpose. And every step feels like it is part of a much bigger plan that only a few truly understand. Their journey began with simple business goals: expansion, partnerships, and influence. But soon, something changed. The pattern of their moves became sharper. They didn't just enter markets. They targeted them. They didn't just form partnerships. They built alliances that shaped the direction of entire industries. It felt less like business and more like strategy. Almost like watching a chess master move pieces across a board, thinking 10 steps ahead. Power International became the kind of name people mentioned when talking about major shifts happening behind closed doors. And the more they expanded, the more people wanted to know what their real goal was. What makes this rise even more interesting is the timing. Power International's biggest push into the global scene happened during the same period another rising force appeared: Fightland. While Power International worked on influence, Fightland worked on impact. While one spread across borders, the other spread across screens. And somewhere in that parallel climb, their paths began to look strangely connected. Not openly, not directly, but enough to make people ask the same question again and again. Is Power International involved in Fightland's sudden rise? As Power International started increasing its presence in regions known for combat sports, promotional arenas, and entertainment markets, observers began to notice the overlap. Deals were signed in the same countries Fightland targeted. Market entries happened within the same months. And executives from both worlds were seen attending the same global events. None of this proved anything, but all of it hinted at something bigger working in the background. It was as if both were following the same map, the same timeline, and perhaps the same hidden architect. In public, Power International stays calm and controlled. They never deny connections, but they never confirm them either. They let people talk. They let rumors grow. They let stories spread. Because sometimes silence is the most powerful answer. And in this case, their silence has created one of the biggest questions. Why does their expansion look perfectly aligned with Fightland's rise? When two powerful names move in the same direction with the same rhythm, it usually means one thing: there is more happening behind the scenes than anyone is being told. Fightland did not enter the world quietly. It exploded into it, like a spark landing on dry ground. One moment, no one had heard of it. The next moment, everyone was talking about it: fans, fighters, influencers, broadcasters, even people who had never watched a single combat match before. Fightland became a storm, pulling more and more people into its world with every new event. And the most surprising part is how quickly it grew. Growth like this usually takes years, sometimes even generations. But for Fightland, it happened almost overnight, leaving the world confused, impressed, and suspicious all at once. The charm of Fightland is simple: raw action, fearless fighters, and a style that feels louder and bolder than anything else in the combat world. The lighting, the commentary, the camera work, the fighter promos, everything feels bigger. It gives the impression of a league built by someone who understands not just sports, but entertainment, branding, and global attention. Every event looks expensive. Every production seems polished. Every broadcast feels like it came from a company with massive financial support. And that is where the questions begin. How does a new organization afford this level of perfection from day one? Who is backing it? Who is guiding it? Who is building this empire from the shadows? As Fightland rose, experts began to notice a few strange patterns. It did not grow like a normal league. A typical combat promotion starts small, builds slowly, creates local buzz, and slowly expands. Fightland skipped all of that. Instead of beginning in small venues, it went straight to major arenas. Instead of recruiting unknown fighters first, it began signing powerful names with global fan bases. Instead of struggling for broadcast deals, it quickly appeared on major digital platforms with strong marketing behind it. This was not the path of a newcomer. This was the path of an organization that already had power pushing it forward, quiet, invisible, but unmistakably strong. Another detail that caught everyone's attention was the sudden increase in production value. From its first event to its latest, Fightland's quality kept rising at a pace that felt almost unnatural. New camera equipment, upgraded lighting systems, better commentary teams, world-level stage setups. These things don't come cheap, and they don't come without planning. It was clear that someone, somewhere, was investing heavily. Someone who wanted Fightland to not only succeed but dominate. Someone who believed in its potential enough to pour in resources before it even proved itself. What makes Fightland even more mysterious is how it started spreading across countries so quickly. One month it was hosting events in Asia, the next in Europe, and soon after in the Middle East. Its branding appeared in regions that usually take years of legal work and negotiation to open. Somehow, Fightland was moving through these barriers effortlessly, as if doors were opening before it even knocked. People started to wonder if the league had a silent partner, a powerful name clearing the path, smoothing the process, and accelerating the growth. And one name kept coming up again and again during every discussion: Power International. The timeline matches too perfectly to ignore. Power International enters a market, and shortly after, Fightland begins activities in the same place. Power International forms new alliances, and soon those regions start producing fighters for Fightland. Power International expands into media and entertainment sectors, and Fightland's broadcast quality suddenly jumps. None of this is proven. None of it is confirmed. But patterns do not lie. And sometimes patterns reveal more than official statements ever could. Today, Fightland stands as one of the fastest-growing combat platforms in the world. But beneath the spotlight, beneath the cheering fans and powerful fighters, there is a question that won't fade. Who is truly carrying Fightland forward? Because the rise is too quick, the funding is too strong, and the timing is too perfect. And when something grows this fast, there is always someone powerful holding the ladder, someone who prefers to stay unseen. The earliest signs of a link between Power International and Fightland did not come as a public announcement or a bold partnership reveal. Instead, they appeared as small pieces of information scattered across different corners of the industry, tiny clues that most people ignored at first. But when placed together, they began forming a picture that was far too clear to overlook. It started with overlapping timelines. Both Power International and Fightland began expanding aggressively at almost the exact same period. One was securing influence in business sectors across countries, while the other was entering those same countries with new events, talent scouting, and media promotions. These moves happened so close together that many wondered if they were following the same strategy sheet. Another strange detail was the sudden appearance of shared contacts. A few managers, promoters, and consultants who previously worked with Power International began showing up in Fightland's circle. They weren't high-profile names, but they were important enough to influence operations and strategic decisions. It was the kind of shift that doesn't happen randomly. People don't jump to a new company unless they trust the future of the place they're joining. And when the same group of professionals starts appearing around to fast-growing industries, it suggests that someone is connecting the dots behind the scenes. The timing of these movements raised eyebrows and made people question how deep the connection truly goes. Then came the sponsorship trail, another clue that added weight to the rumors. Brands and businesses known to have long-term relationships with Power International slowly started sponsoring Fightland events. It wasn't sudden or loud, it was almost quiet, like a series of subtle signs left behind intentionally. One event would feature a company closely tied to Power International. A few weeks later, another event would include a media partner known to work with them as well. By itself, this might seem normal, but when nearly every major sponsor of Fightland had some kind of past or present link with Power International, the pattern became too strong to ignore. It felt like Fightland was benefiting from connections that usually take years to build, yet it had access from the very beginning. The similarities didn't stop at sponsorships. Even the expansion strategy both groups used looked nearly identical. Power International preferred entering regions with high growth potential, especially countries where sports and entertainment were rising industries. Fightland, surprisingly, showed up in those exact same places, sometimes right after Power International planted its flag. It was as if both were using the same map, identifying the same valuable territories, and executing the same long-term plans. Observers began describing it as parallel expansion, but parallel growth of this kind often points toward a shared engine powering both sides. A deeper layer of suspicion grew when analysts began studying Fightland's sudden financial confidence. It was no secret that running large-scale events required massive investment production, security, marketing, logistics, broadcasting deals, fighter contracts, travel expenses. Yet Fightland never showed hesitation, never slowed down, and never struggled publicly. Money flowed smoothly. Their events kept getting bigger. Their reach kept spreading. Experts started asking the same question: who was funding this growth? And every time that question appeared, the answer people whispered was the same: Power International. The possibility of a hidden financial channel made the connection feel even more realistic. The final and perhaps strongest piece of early evidence came from their shared public behavior. Neither Power International nor Fightland openly denied their connection. They didn't confirm it, but their silence spoke louder than any statement. Whenever a journalist asked about the rumor, both sides would give vague, carefully chosen responses like "we respect their work" or "we have no comment at this time." These kinds of responses usually signal that something is happening behind the scenes, something they aren't ready to reveal. Companies usually shut down false rumors quickly. But when rumors are allowed to grow, it often means they are not entirely false. Section 3 reveals the first real hint that the connection between Power International and Fightland may not be random at all. It may be intentional, strategic, and deeply rooted in moves happening out of the public eye. And if these early signs are accurate, then the story only becomes more intriguing from here. Power International's growth was never random. From the start, their expansion strategy looked like it was crafted by someone who understood how global influence truly works. They didn't just enter markets, they selected them. They didn't chase trends, they created them. And every move felt calculated, almost like they were drawing a blueprint for a future only they could see. As their presence began spreading across continents, experts realized that Power International wasn't building a business empire. They were building a network, a system of influence that crossed industries, borders, and cultures, all connected by a vision much bigger than anything they publicly discussed. One of the most unique parts of their strategy was how they approached new territories. Instead of choosing regions based only on profit, they targeted places where entertainment, sports, and media were becoming powerful cultural tools. Countries where young audiences were growing. Regions where governments were investing in tourism, global events, and public image. Power International entered these places quietly at first: small offices, new partnerships, silent meetings, almost like planting seeds. And then, within months, their presence would expand dramatically, creating opportunities that seemed to appear out of nowhere. What looked like luck to outsiders was actually the result of months of planning and deep research. Another surprising part of their strategy was how they moved away from traditional business routes. Most companies rely heavily on public marketing, aggressive advertising, and constant announcements. Power International did the opposite. They operated like a shadow, making powerful deals behind closed doors. They formed relationships with influential people long before entering a market. They focused on building trust instead of building hype. This quiet, controlled behavior made them harder to predict, but also harder to compete with. By the time the world realized they were entering a new industry, they had already built a strong foundation inside it. Their expansion also relied heavily on timing, which they executed with incredible precision. When a country was about to host a global sports event, Power International stepped in months earlier. When a market began shifting toward entertainment content, they arrived right before the boom. When digital media platforms started rising, in certain regions, Power International placed investments right as the trend began. They moved fast, but not blindly. They were always just early enough to benefit and just prepared enough to dominate. This timing is one of the biggest reasons analysts believe they might be working alongside Fightland, because Fightland's expansion mirrors the same perfect timing, the same strategic rhythm, and the same instinct for opportunity. Another powerful part of their strategy involved shaping culture, not just business. They invested in events, shows, productions, and large-scale public attractions, things that influence how people think, what they watch, and what they talk about. This is where the possible connection to Fightland becomes even clearer. Combat sports are not just entertainment, they are cultural phenomena. They build communities, create global stars, and capture attention in a way very few industries can. For a company like Power International, aligning with a fast-growing combat platform would be a perfect move. It would give them access to millions of young viewers, strong brands, and a loyal fan base around the world. The final and most interesting element of their strategy is that Power International seems to think far into the future. They are not focused on the next year, they are focused on the next decade. Every step they take looks like part of a long chain of decisions leading toward a bigger goal. A goal that involves entertainment, global influence, and strategic partnerships. And when you look at Fightland's rise, the pace of their growth, and the choices they make, it becomes difficult not to see the connection. Fightland fits perfectly into the kind of future Power International appears to be building. Section 4 reveals how Power International's expansion is not just impressive, it's intentional, structured, and full of hidden design. Their strategy doesn't look like the work of a company simply growing. It looks like the work of a force preparing something much larger. And if Fightland is part of this plan, then the connection between the two may be deeper than anyone expected.